Okay, first, some mild administrative stuff. My sister is flying in from out of town, obviously, on Sunday, and she was originally supposed to come in at 2, and she called me yesterday, and she said something, I don't know if her flight got canceled, and they booked her on another flight, or if she had to book herself on another flight, or what the deal is, but now she's supposed to be coming in at 5, and I'm worried that that's a little bit too close to class time for me to make it on time, so I was thinking about possibly bumping you guys a little bit. I have a class after you all, but I was thinking about either putting y'all later on Sunday night, like at, let's see, 6, 7, 8, 8, like at 9 o'clock or so, or I was thinking about bumping you guys to Monday night. So, yeah. What is today? Today's Wednesday, right? Yeah, today's Wednesday, so the key assignment. So, but do you think it would be easier if I moved y'all back on Sunday night, or if I moved y'all to Monday night? For the Monday would be fine? Okay, I think I'm going to shoot out an email, since sadly you're the only person here. I'm going to shoot out an email to everybody and see what everyone else thinks, and we'll adjust the time accordingly, because I just, you know, theoretically, if her flight comes in on time and if she gets her baggage pretty quick, then we should be back in plenty of time, but I don't like to to test it like that, because surely if I move it, everything's going to go smoothly, but if I don't move the class, then her flight's going to be late, and her baggage is going to be lost, and there's going to be lots of problems. Right, exactly. Inevitably, that's how it always happens. So yeah, I'll send an email out to everybody and see if I can't figure out which works best for all of y'all, and then we'll go from there. All right, key assignment for this week, you know, again, this week's post is really easy, so Wednesday, that's tonight. You have to have, for your discussion board, you have to have this key assignment posted, and you can just attach that to a discussion board. I know usually I tell y'all to copy and paste into the body of the discussion board, but it's just that your key assignments are pretty long. So y'all can just put that, just attach it, and then put some notes with it, and I said this on Sunday. Put some notes with it that say, you know, that explain if you've had any problems, you know, if there's questions that you have, things that you thought went particularly well, you know, anything that you think is pertinent, and then what you need to do for your responses to your classmates is you need to go into your classmates' posts, and you need to look at their key assignment, and you might want to talk about, you know, how maybe what you did was different than what they did, or how maybe you misunderstood something, or you think that theirs is better than yours and why, or you know, things that you would add to theirs to make theirs better, things like that. Don't grade their papers. You know, don't say, oh, this is not APA format, or, oh, your table of contents is wrong, or anything like that. That's not what we're doing. If you do want to point out, like, maybe the table of contents is not the way that it was in the announcement, you might want to say, oh, you know, I noticed your table of contents is different than mine. I used the video and the announcements to make mine. You might want to take a look at that. But don't say, oh, you didn't do this right. You know, that's just, you know, that's not really generally helpful information. People don't like to hear that. So try to be positive. Try to give good feedback. And if you're critiquing something that they did, point them to the resources that you used. So you can say, like I said, you can say, oh, well, I used this in the announcements to help me with that. I used this. I used that. And that will help your classmates to get their information and correct whatever things that may need to be corrected. Okay, does that make sense? All right, cool beans. All right, any other questions on the discussion board before we move on to the program? All right, cool beans. All right, so we are here. We're in phase 4. So what we're doing on this one is, you guys, now this is one of the harder ones, and actually next week it gets just a wee bit harder, because you don't have that PDF that you've been using all along. You know, all along you've got your PDF, you pretty much copy and paste the code into your document, and you find the errors and you correct the errors. So you guys should be pretty comfortable by now with looking through the document, looking through your program, identifying the errors, and understanding what the errors are. I'm still getting a couple of people who are confused with, they're getting some, I've had a couple of really funky errors. So if you get a funky error that's not like, it doesn't look like something that we've done before, and you try Googling it and you can't figure out what it is, then by all means send it to me. My rule is, and I said this before, my rule is 15 minutes. If you cannot find the solution in 15 minutes, then you really need to ask for help. You shouldn't be stressing yourself that much on these programs. I mean, it's important that you learn them and understand them, but 15 minutes on a particular problem, that doesn't mean on the whole program. If you spend more than 15 minutes on the whole program, well, you're going to, because that's when to declare not to. Are you talking about like variables? Is that what we're talking about here? Is that the problem you're having, Navidad? Oh gosh, I don't know why I think that's spelling right. So that's your problem. That's what you're saying you're having a problem is when to declare and when not to. Is that what you're saying? Okay, so whenever you're using a variable, and that actually is a hard thing to understand to get in the habit of or really understand when to use variables and when not to. Theoretically, variables should be used whenever possible. So anytime you're using a variable, so like here, this is a variable, okay? So anytime you're using a variable, it needs to be declared up here. And then the important thing is learning what type. Is it an int? Is it a Boolean? Is it a string? Knowing what it is, and when you declare it. So just pretty much whenever you use it, but it's usually we don't use whole phrases like this inside an argument. And the reason that we don't pass whole phrases like that as an argument is just because if you do that, it tends to get wordy. There's too much information in there. Does that make sense? So we try to use variables instead when we're passing arguments, just because it keeps things a little bit neater and a little bit easier to follow along with. So, excuse me, whenever you get something where it says, so like if you have, let's see, so if I take this out. Okay, so now I don't have invalid entry, and that you can see all the red that pops up on the right. So anytime that you have a variable that you use, here's a variable, you're initializing the variable. So you're giving it a value of answer, maybe yes or no. Anytime you're using a variable, you have to declare it. Does that make sense? And you can actually declare it here. So you could do this. Okay, that's a declaration and initialization in the same line, which is okay. But some people, like OCD people, like to put it all in one place. So like this. Okay, does that help at all? Does that sort of answer your question? Okay, cool beans. All right, sorry I had to blow my nose, so I muted you for a second. Okay, so that's when you declare your variable. So anytime you're using a variable, you need to declare it. Okay, so on this, now we have the assignment. We need to add some stuff. So what you're going to be doing is you're going to be, okay, so you have to enter if it's a returning customer, must be yes or no, enter username, must fill in name, enter at least one product to order, enter quantity, must enter 1 through 99, enter delivery address that includes street, city, state, and zip, and enter telephone number. So what you need to do is that's actually pretty easy. That's just kind of like what you did down here with the name. Okay, this is actually I did customer return. So this is customer return, and this is what I did on Sunday. And Sunday I accidentally made it an or. It's supposed to be an and. So if it's not a yes and it's not a no, then you go into the loop. Now this loop is the same loop that we use down here for our customer name. So you can use that same loop for to validate each of the inputs. Now, another thing that we do is we know that users are stupid. As a general rule, users are stupid. So let's say you're doing your products. Okay, so it says enter at least one product to order. So we're going to look at this really quick. So they need to enter a product. Okay, so I'm going to do this. Let's see, name. I'm going to put it after the name. So what you're going to do is you're going to do a product. Okay, so I'm declaring here. Now you can declare up top or you can declare down here. Either way. So I'm going to do product output message equals what would you like to order? Okay, so what we're doing is we're asking them what product they want. Okay, now one thing that we can do is we can do this. We can do string order equals, and then we're going to do JOption pane dot so input dialog, and then we're going to put product output. Okay, so this is how you've done it before, right? So this is going to make an input box, right? So it's going to pop up and it's going to have a text box where the user can type what they want to order. Okay, now what's the problem with doing it this way? What's the problem with doing it this way? Okay, first of all, we don't have information on what to order. We don't have a list of the products that they can order. So, no telling what they're going to type, right? They could type, you're selling pizzas, they could type shirt, we don't know. The other issue is, like, let's say we do give them a list, and we put what they can order. And so one of them is a Hawaiian pizza. Okay, we have three things. We're selling a Chicago pizza, a New York style pizza, and a Hawaiian pizza. So, if they do Hawaiian is one of those words that's like really tricky to spell. It's kind of like vacuum. It's got weird double letters. So to spell Hawaiian, you have to have two I's. But a lot of people may not know that, and so they may spell it wrong. And we cannot possibly even start to comprehend the number of ways that people can misspell the word Hawaiian. Plus, on top of that, they may just put Hawaiian, they may put Hawaii, they may put Hawaiian pizza. So we have no way to really validate what it is that they want. So an alternative is to use an input, still using an input dialog box. But instead of, and I'm going to start this all the way over from scratch. So I'm going to take this one out. So what you can do is you can give them a drop-down dialog box. So it's a dialog box. It's an input dialog box. But instead of having them type something, we give them options. We say, okay, well, you can order one or two or three things, whatever we are. Now we're just going to give them the option to order one thing at a time. So what we're going to do is we're going to use an input dialog, but we're going to use an input dialog that's a little bit changed. So what we're going to do is we're going to create an object, okay? Or you can do a string. It doesn't matter, string. It's either a string or object. And now remember we said that a string is an object, right? Not every object is a string, but every string is an object. Okay, so we're going to do a string, and we're going to call this, I'll call it pizzas. Okay, now, what we're going to do, what we're doing here is we're actually setting up an array. So we're going to use an open curly brace here. This is where it gets a little bit funky because we're used to using curly braces to encompass, groups of commands and stuff. This is actually creating an array. So what we're going to do is we're going to put the consumer options here, the pizza options. So we're going to put Chicago. Here, let's see. What type of pizza? Okay. So we're going to put Chicago. We're going to put New York. And we're going to put Hawaiian. Okay, now all of these are encompassed in quotation marks. Why are they all in quotation marks? Okay, it's because each of these is a string. Okay, remember strings are always encompassed in quotation marks. A string is always in a quotation mark. Now a char is different. A char, like if you want one letter, you're going to put a char in a single quote. So a char is a single quote. But if you have string, then this is a string, or you can have char letter equals A. Okay? So those are actually two different types of variables. Okay? This is a string, which is actually can be a series. And then this one is a char, which means it can only be one letter. But notice that the char is encompassed in single quotes and the string is encompassed in double quotes. Okay? Just a little point because you may be using chars at some point. Okay, so like I said, this is encompassed in curly braces. Okay, a little bit different because we still need a semicolon. Okay, usually it's either a curly brace or a semicolon. In this case, we get a curly brace and a semicolon. Okay, because this is really a line. All we're doing is, like I said, setting up an array. So now what we need to do is we need to get whatever, well, first of all, we need to put in we need to create the input box that they're going to put, but we also need a way in all of our input messages, show input dialog. In all of our show input dialogs, we assign the value that the user puts in to a variable, right? So what we need to do is we need to create a variable for the customer to hold, or a variable for the computer to hold that name. So what we're going to do is I'm just going to declare it here. And again, like I said, you can declare it in the same line. So we're going to declare and we're going to declare and initialize at the same time. So string pizza choice. Okay, so see, I declared it. I declared it by putting the string here, and I'm going to initialize it by using that equal sign, the assignment operator. Okay, so I'm going to do string input. Now, this is really weird. So what I'm doing is I'm actually casting the value into a string because it's an object, and I want to make sure that it's returned as a string, a specific type of object. So I'm just going to put string there, and what that does is it casts the value into a string, and you don't really have to understand that now, but you'll understand it in the future. So we're going to do the same thing, JabsonPayne.show input dialog, show input dialog. Now, this time what we're going to do is we're doing, we want show input dialog. So we want this one, the object, the string, no, I don't want the, I'm going to do the icon, the object, and the object. Okay, so this is the one that I'm going to choose. Okay, you notice that there's lots of different choices here. This is the one I need because I'm going to set up my object. I'm just going to put some of this stuff down. I'm going to do null, and then what I'm going to do is I'm going to set these each up individually. Okay, so null, now my args, okay, that's going to be, no, this is not the one I wanted. Hold on. That's not the one I wanted. I can get that back up. Show input dialog. I can never get that thing to come back up. Okay, show input dialog. So what we're going to do is we're going to do null. That's the component object. Okay, and then we're going to put, the next thing that we're going to put is we're going to put the message. So that would be that product output message. So product output message. Okay, then we're going to put the title. Oh man, I always get that mixed up. I always forget whether you put the title first or the object or the message first. I think it's the message first. So we're going to go to the Java API. Because I always forget which one goes which. So we'll go to the Java API real quick and we'll look. And we'll make sure that we're doing this right. I think the message goes first. So you go to javax.swing. Swing, QRSTU, javax.swing. Okay, and then we're going to go to JOption pane. Okay, and then we're going to go down to show input dialog. Okay, so here's our show input dialogs. We've got, this is the one I want. Okay, the component, parent, object, message, string, title. So the message goes first and then the title, so I was correct. Okay, so what we're going to do is we're going to do the message, and then we're going to put the title, and I'll put make a selection. Okay, so that's the title. Okay, then I'm going to do what type of a message this is. Okay, this isn't really information. This is more of a question. So I'm going to use the question message. Okay, so I'm going to use question message. The next value here. Let me do it this way. Okay. So the next value that we need is the icon that we want to use on the side. Oh, hey, Ewing. So we want the icon next, but we don't have an icon. We don't have a special icon. You know, maybe you have an icon that's like a pizza slice or something like that. That's fine. You can use that. But I'm not going to use an icon because that's more trouble than it's worth at this point. So I'm going to go ahead and put null. Null just means that it's going to use the standard option. The standard icon or the default icon from the question message. Okay, so that I'm going to do. I'm going to do null for the default icon. Then I want my array of choices. Okay, so here's my array of choices. It's called pizzas. So I'm going to put that in there, pizzas. Okay, so that's my array. And then we put you can put your initial choice. Okay, so like if you want your initial option to be Chicago, you can put Chicago. Or the other way that you can do it is you can do it this way. You can do pizzas. And then, just like we have the little brackets here, we're going to use the little brackets. Now notice those are brackets and not a curly brace. And you can put 1 or 2 or 3. So this would show Chicago as the first one. If I put 2, that would show New York, and if I put 3, that would show Hawaiian. So that's like kind of, have you ever been to a website where it's got a pull down for your country, and everything's alphabetical, but United States is highlighted as the first option? So United States is the default, even though it's way, 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 way down in the line. You know what I'm talking about? So that's what they're doing there, is they're setting that initial choice. So they're setting, basically this is like the default option. And like I said, you can either use the numbers or you can use the words, doesn't matter. And you still need to have that semicolon, okay? The semicolon is the end of line character, and you have to have that in order to do this. Now, just to show you how this is captured, I'm going to do an out print line, and I'm going to output pizza choice so that you can see what happens. Okay, so here's pizza choice. So now we're just going to run the program and see what happens. And now you don't have to use this if you don't want to. That's fine. It's, you know, this is not a requirement. It's just something that you can do to make it easier for your user. Are you returning customer? Notice we have the show confirm dialog with the yes no option here, in order to, so that the user doesn't make some silly, goofy choice. So, and obviously I didn't get rid of that. So your current username and your current password and your name. Oh, why do I have an exception now? What happened? Good golly, Miss Molly, why did that throw an exception? Exception for main dialing is exception 3 at line 167. In this. Oops. String pizza choice, string definition, put dialog, null, product. The message make selection. Not being an exception there. I do not see anything wrong. Oh, you know what? I wonder if it's this. Oh, you know why? Okay, you know why it did that? Okay, I know what the problem is. So I had an array out of bounds exception. Okay, look at this. My brain is on fry. Okay, so it says array index out of bounds exception. You see that? So that's telling me that what the exception is. So the exception is that in an array, the counting always starts at 0. So Chicago is 0, New York is 1, Hawaiian is 2. We don't have a 3, which is why I got an out-of-bounds exception. Right, yeah, no, yeah. It's 0, 1, 2, because I don't have that fourth choice. It always starts counting as 0 for an array. So that was my bad. Different programming languages, some programming languages start it at 1, and some programming languages start it at 0. And Java always starts it at 0. Okay, see, so Chicago, because I put, what did I put? Did I put 0? I put 0. So Chicago is my default option. Make a selection. What type of pizza would you like to order? You pull down. I'm going to choose Hawaiian. Choose OK, and see the output down there on the bottom in the console window. You see that right there? So you can see that it returned the right value. Okay, so always make sure, always make sure on your arrays is 0, 1, 2, 3. Okay? All right, so any questions on that? So you can do all of your things that way. If you want to do like your state, you can validate input. If you want to make an array like this, okay, like let's say you want to make an array of the different choices of 1 to 99. But you don't want to type 1, 2, 3, 4. One way to do that is you can go into Microsoft Excel, and if you just put you put 1, 2, and then you pull it down like this to 99. Okay, and then if you save it as a comma delimited file, save as comma delimited. Where's the comma delimited? Comma delimited. Okay, so comma delimited file. So if you save it like that, here, comma delimited, then what happens is you can just copy and paste it into your box without having to type out all the numbers. So that's just kind of a quick, easy way for you to put that in there. Okay. All right. So you can do like your your numbers 1 to 99 that way. You can do your product selection that way, and select the values that way. All right, now the next thing that we're going to do is we're going to do try catch, and we're going to do a write to file and a read from file. And I'm going to show you some cool things. If we have time, I'm going to show you some really creepalicious stuff. All right. So the first thing that we're going to do is we're going to, we need a file to put the information. Now, remember when I got that array, that out of bounds exception up here, when I got my out of bounds exception? There are different kinds of exceptions, and we don't want that to happen because that's cryptic, right? For me, I know how to read it, so it was no big deal, so I could go in and fix it. But if you've got somebody who's trying to run a compiled program, first of all, they can't go into the code and fix it. Second of all, they probably don't even know what it means. They just know that the program didn't run the way it was supposed to. And what we want to do is we want to prevent anything like that from happening. Excuse me, sorry. So we want to prevent anything like that from happening. So what we do is we use a try-catch block. So what a try-catch block does is you always have to have a try with a catch. So what the try does is the try says, it's saying, okay, so try this code. So anything that you put into the curly braces is, it's going to be, anything inside these curly braces is going to be what the computer tries. Now, if it throws an exception, which is like that array index out of bounds exception, then what's going to happen is it's going to go into the catch block, and that's where you tell it what to do if it happens. So now you notice that there's a red underline on this. It's because you can't have a try without a catch. So you have to have a catch. Finally, so you have try and catch. Finally is something that will execute no matter what. So it goes to the try, and whether it runs or doesn't run, the finally code will do whatever it needs to do. So you can have like a finally to close your file writer, or you can have a finally to say, execution worked or whatever. But a finally block executes either way. Whether the try works or whether it doesn't work, the finally block will work. But we're not going to do finally blocks today, so don't worry about it. Okay, so we're going to try. So here's what I'm going to do. I'm going to do it this way. I'm going to start with a string, and I'm going to put I'll call it contents. Okay, so string contents equals, and then I'm going to write what I want in here. So I'm going to put today is the first day of the rest of your life. Okay, now that's not what you're going to write into your file, right? What are you going to write into your file? What are you going to write into your file? Okay, so you're a business and you have clients coming to your website, and they're putting in their order information, right? So you need to capture that order information, right? So what are you going to put into your file? Now the file is not something they're seeing. What you're doing is you're writing the file. Now we're going to write to a text file, but you might write, for instance, to a database, right? So if you're writing to a database, what are you going to put in there? Right, exactly. We're going to put what's been ordered, maybe their name and address, whatever they put in. We're going to put whatever their input is into the file. So I'm using a variable because that will help you make the transition into putting in your stuff, and we'll talk about how to do that here in a minute. Okay, so you're going to put, I'm just making that. So you're not actually going to do this line because you're going to be putting in their order information. Like I said, I'm just doing this. I'm putting it into a variable so that you can make the transition easier in your program. Okay, so what we need to do first is we need to create a new file. So a file is someplace it's going to write to. Okay, so it's called a file. So we're going to do file. I'm going to name it file, and that's just standard. You can name it whatever you want. File is the type. Okay, file. This file here is what you're going to name it. Now, notice that I've got an error here. Okay, I don't have it here, but you're going to need more inputs for this. Okay. I'll show you the inputs. I'll give you the inputs. Okay, so we're going to go file, file equals, and then equals new file. So what we're doing here is we're creating a file object. Okay, we're doing a file object. Okay, and we're going to put where, and for the file object, we need to put where we're going to put that. So we're going to put it, I'm going to put it on my desktop. So to put it on your desktop, you put, it's going to be users and then the username. And then, like I said, I'm going to show you some creepalicious stuff on how to find the user's desktop so you can write to the user's desktop. We'll call this order info. Okay, so what I did is I created this this file. Oops. Okay, there. So I created this file right here. Gosh darn it, really? What is going on with these? There. Okay, so what we're doing is we're creating this file. This is giving the path of where the file is going to be created. Now, if you look at my desktop, you can see, actually I've got some junk up here that I was just playing with. Yeah. Okay, so right now you can see that I don't have that file on my desktop. Okay, by the time we're done, we're going to have that on the desktop. Okay, so you go in here. So now we're using the file. Notice that it says, oh no, there's no class file. So what you can do, where do we go? What do we do if we don't know where something is, or like what package it's in? What do we do? Where do we look? Okay, we don't look in the computer. We're not looking for the file. We're looking for this particular class. So what we're going to do is we're going to go in and we're going to look in the API, right? And we're going to Google it since we can't search the API. So we're going to go file Java, and we're going to see where it is. So when you do that, you can find where it is, and you can see here it's in the java.io package, right? So we always go to the API. If you don't know where something is, going to Google and then Googling it for the API, because like I said, I don't know why the API is not searchable. That's stupid. So we're going to need that import, okay? We're going to need some more imports, and we'll just kind of go through them as we get to them. So we're going to go, we're going to do import java.io.asterisk. Okay, so that's going to import the Java.io stuff. Is that an idea? Yeah. Develop a search program for Java's API. You know, I would be shocked if somebody has not done that, to be quite honest. And I don't have time to be messing with that. Okay, so see now my little, see now all the little red underlines went away? See now I don't have the red, so I know I imported the right thing. So we're doing good, right? Okay, so now the next thing we want to do is we want to see if the file exists. Okay, because if it's already there, we want to go ahead and we want to write to it, right? But if it's not there, so let's see if a file exists. So if it's not there, we want to create it, right? So if, I want you to use that not symbol, okay? Yes, I do still need a catch. We'll get to that in a minute. So I'm going to say not file.exist. So a lot of these things are in the positive, like file.exist. So if you want to negate them, you always use that exclamation point. So if you have a method that you're using, this is the exists, If you want to negate it, just put that exclamation point in front of it. So now I'm saying if the file doesn't exist. Okay, if I don't have the exclamation point, I'm saying if the file does exist, but what I'm doing is I want to say if it doesn't exist, I need to create it. Does that make sense? Did that? Okay, so if the file doesn't exist, I'm going to create a new file. And notice that I put this. So file, notice the syntax. File, so that's this file. I wanted to create this file. So I'm going to do file.create new file. Okay? So if file exists, and I'm just going to curly brace this. If it's only one line, you usually don't have to curly brace it. Oh, I'm missing a curly brace. I'm like, why is that an error? No, now why is that an error? Okay, well, we won't curly brace it then. Oh, because I don't have my exception. That's why it's giving me a thing. Sorry. So that's the thing is that if this throws an exception, right now we have no way to deal with it. So we're going to deal with that here in just 1 second. So now the next thing we're going to do is we're going to do file writer. Okay, so now we have to actually write to the file. So here, first we were creating the file, okay, and now we're going to write to the file. Now FW, that's just standard. That's one of the common ones. Now, obviously you can give it a real name if you want. If you have a lot of files, you want to do that. But we're going to do FW equals new file writer. So we're doing the same thing here. Now we're making a file writer object. Okay, we're going to do file, okay, and that's the same file that we've been using all along, dot get absolute file, get absolute file. Okay, so file writer equals new file writer, file dot get absolute file. All right, now what we need to do is we need to write it. Okay, we need to actually write it. We're going to use the buffered writer to do that. So we put buffered writer, and you'll never guess what we usually call buffered writer. What's the standard name for buffered writer, do you think? Take a guess. No, I meant like the name. It's actually BW. Okay, so BW, just like we used FW, buffered writer is kind of the default name for buffered writers. So we're going to do new buffered writer. Okay, now, what do you think we're going to write? So there's an argument that needs to go in here. Okay, we have to write with the file writer. We're using the buffered writer and the file writer together. So what argument do you think we're going to put in here? We're using the file writer inside the buffered writer. So what do you think we're going to put in here to make it work? Guesses? That's actually a really good guess. It's close. What we're going to do is, because we've got the file writer, this isn't actually the write command just yet. We're going to write in just a minute. But what we want to do is we want to use the file writer. So we're going to put the FW in there, because the FW is the actual file writer object that we just created. So we're going to put FW in there. Hold on just 1 second. I'll do that. Hold on. Okay. So what we're going to do is we're going to put the FW. We're going to put the FW in here. Okay. So we're going to put FW in there because we're using this file writer. Okay. All right. Now the next thing we need to do is write, just like you said. So we're going to use the write method. So we're going to write. And then we're going to do the contents. Okay? So that's what we're writing to our file. Okay, contents. Now, since you're not writing, since you're not doing this, what variable will you replace this with? What variables? Right, whatever the input is. You can make an input string, so you can make kind of like you did with the output message, you can make an output string that way too. So however you want to do it. But yeah, whatever the user input is, that's what you're going to put in here. Okay? Then what we need is we need a catch. Okay? And we already have a curly brace. So we're going to go down after this, try curly brace. Okay? And we're going to put a catch. Okay, now the type of exception that this would throw is an input-output exception, which is pretty obvious because we're using the I/O. We're using the java.io package, the java.io. So it actually throws an input-output exception. So if it can't do this stuff, the exception it's going to throw is an I/O exception. So what we do is we catch, and then we have an argument. We have to tell it what kind of exception, and this is kind of like declaring a variable because we're going to do I/O exception. So this is the type of exception, and then we have to give it a name. So we're going to do I/O exception and then E. That's just the standard exception. You can call it whatever you want. E is the standard. That's what a lot of people do. Now, what I'm going to do here is I'm just going to do E.printStackTrace. And what a print stack trace is when a method is thrown down here in the console window, remember those funky red, all that funky red stuff that I got? What it does is it shows that, plus it also shows the lines that executed before so that I can hunt down the error and figure out what the deal is. Okay, so basically what this is this just a way to find an error. Now, you don't have to do that. You can just, you can output, you can make a dialog box, you can put a, an output statement in your console window. You can do anything you want in there. The print stack trace, all that is that so that you, the programmer, can go through and hunt down the error. Okay, so that helps you to determine what the problem is. Okay, does that make sense? What's the end of my try text box? All right, so now the next thing that we want to do is we want to read from a file, okay? Buffered reader, CR equals, no. Okay, now what we're going to do is we're going to do another try. So we're going to try, lowercase, try, and now what we're going to do is we're going to try to read what we have, okay? So I'm going to do, this. I'm going to do string. Okay, now what we're going to do is our buffered reader. This is our buffered reader up here. Okay, so buffered reader equals new buffered reader. And then this is a little bit funky. So we're going to do new file reader. And we're going to use this same thing in here. Okay, we want that same exact thing. Because if you don't have the same exact thing, you won't find it. Okay, and then that goes into parentheses. Okay, then what we're going to do is we're going to do while, and I'll string. Okay, so this is a while statement, so this is a loop, right? So here's what we're doing, okay? We're going to say ask current line. So what we're doing here is we're saying as long as there's a line available in the file. So as long as we have a line to read, we're going to read the file. Read line. Read line. Okay, so we're going to read the file. Okay? And then we're going to say as long as it's not null. Okay? Not equal to null, which means that there's something there. That's what we're saying. So as long as it's not equal to null, and then what we want to do is we want to read the next line. So then what it's doing is it's printing that current line, F current line. Okay. Okay, so what we're doing is we're looking to see if we have the file, okay, and then while there's a line to read in there, we're going to read that line, and then this is going to output it to the console window. Now, you don't have to output it to a console window. You can output it to a dialog box, whatever you want. I just output it to the console window because that's easy. Okay, so then we close the while statement. And then we need to catch. Okay, so this is our try, so the end of our try. So we're going to catch now. We have to catch our exception. Same thing, it's going to be an IO exception. IO exception. E, because that's just standard. And then you can do the same thing, E dot print stack trace. E dot print. Okay, so this is what we're doing, all right? So try, catch, we're catching if there's a problem, we're going to print the stack trace. And then what you can do, if you want to, you can do a finally block. So the finally block goes after the catch. And like I said, this is something that's going to happen no matter what. And so do another little try catch in here. And you're going to say if dr, and that's the buffered reader is not equal to null. Then what we're going to do is we're going to so what we're doing here is we're just closing the reader. And then it's the same thing. Actually, I'm just going to copy this here because I'm lazy. Make sure that all of your tries and catches line up correctly. Okay? So now you run it. See what happens. And then I want to show you one other thing before I let you go. Okay, now this is not going to, yes, you have to do this for your IP4. And you're not going to, this is not going to do your file stuff because I did the name instead. Okay? Here. Okay, see, here's that line right there. Okay, what it did is it read to a file and then it read from the file. Now wait, remember, where was my file? Okay, my file was on the desktop, so let's go look. Here it is right here. There's my file. Okay? See? So, now, I'm going to run it again because I want to show you one more thing really quick before I let y'all go. And then I'm not going to be able to show you the creepalicious stuff because we don't have time. I'm sorry. Okay, so we're going to run this one more time and I'm going to show you something. And I have problems with this. I have to take that out. Okay, now, see what it did? Now, see, it's still the same thing, right? The reason it's the same thing is because what it does is every time it writes to the file, it overwrites everything that you put in there. Now, if you're doing this in the real world, you don't want it to overwrite. You want it to append, right? You want to add it to the end. So if you want it to do that, if you want it to add to the end instead of overwriting, what you need to do is you need to go in here, the file writer, new file writer, file attribute, and you have to add an argument, and your argument is going to be true. Okay, so you add a true argument. Now, watch again. We're going to do this. We're going to do this twice more, and then I'm going to let y'all go. Okay, so you go through this and this. Oops, I can't put that. Okay, see now it appended. You see how it's on the end? So now we have 2 lines in the file, right? But if you don't want it that way, what you can do, if you want it to do like one after the other so that it looks like, if it looks like this instead, so if you want it to look like this instead, what do you need to do to put a new line character into a file? Like in your output, how did you do a new line character? Remember? Well, we do a plus, and then, but it's this, right? It's the plus, the new line character, like this. Okay, you can use that here. So what are we writing in here? We're writing contents, right? So here's where we're writing contents, and then you can just add that to the end. Okay, now I'm going to run it twice more, because this one's just going to append it, because we don't have it. Oh, man. Okay, see, so it appended it this time. So now we're going to run it one more time, and you're going to see that it goes on the end. So just one more time. Okay, see how it moved it down to the next line this time? So this one is on the next line because we put that new line character in there. We put the new line character here. So we wrote the contents and then we asked it to move to the next line. So the next time that it appends, it's going to append it on the next line, which is really important when you're writing the customer files because you want to keep them separate. So, so that's what you would do, new line. Now remember, contents for you guys is going to be all the stuff that you gather from the customer, right? So that's what you're going to replace this contents value with. And you see, you can do it just like you're building a string. You can, concatenate and everything. You can put spaces in there, everything. They're all strings. You just write whatever you need to write there. Okay? Fair enough? You guys think you can handle that? Okay. So it's not brutally hard. There's also some videos in the announcements that will help you. So check out those videos, and I will see you guys maybe on Sunday. I'll send out an email. You missed it. My sister-in-law is flying in from out of town, and her flight, she changed it, so it's 5. It's coming in at 5 instead of at 2 when it was supposed to come in, and so it's really messing with my schedule. So I'll send out an email regarding that. All right? So I will see you guys then on Sunday or Monday. We'll figure it out. Yes, all the way from week 1 through week 4. Everything will be in there. Everything. Okay? All right, cool beans. I'll see you guys next week. You're welcome. Bye, Navidad.